Okay, so let's dive right in to this deep dive.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a good one. We're tackling something I think a lot of people struggle with, and it can be really frustrating. You know, you can read English books. Maybe you can even write emails in English without too much trouble. But then when it comes to actually speaking, it's like suddenly you just freeze up.
Yeah, it's almost like your tongue turns to lead.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people think, well, I must be the only one who's going through this. But trust me, you are not alone. We are going to unpack why this happens, and even more importantly, we're going to arm you with some seriously effective solutions to help you overcome this.
Yeah, and I think what's really fascinating about this whole thing is that it's not just about knowing the language. It's about training your brain to actually use the language in a completely different way.
Right, yeah. It's like having all of the ingredients for like a gourmet meal, but no idea how to actually cook, right?
Exactly. It's like, you've got the cookbook, you understand the recipe, but you've never actually turned on the stove.
Yeah.
You need to get in the kitchen and start cooking.
Yeah, right. So it's about like that deliberate practice.
Yes.
But not just any practice, right?
Yeah, okay.
What kind of practice actually rewires our brains for that spoken fluency?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. And I think a lot of people kind of get stuck in this practice makes perfect loop,
Yeah.
but it's way more nuanced than that.
Oh.
We need to work smarter, not just harder. You
Yeah.
know? We need to leverage techniques that actually align with how our brains actually form those neural pathways for fluency.
So just repeating phrases from a textbook isn't going to cut it.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, it might help a little bit, but it's like trying to learn to play basketball by just dribbling in place. You need to get out on the court. You need to shoot some hoops.
Yeah.
You need to play the game.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of getting out there, let's talk about the fear factor.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think so many people understand English, but then they just get paralyzed by this fear of messing up,
Right.
that fear of making mistakes.
Big time. Yeah. It's like stage fright, but for everyday conversations.
Totally. It's so real, and I think it holds a lot of people back.
Oh, absolutely.
What do you think? Are there ways to actually reframe this fear to make it work for us instead of against us?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And is not just, motivational fluff. It's actually backed by research.
Yeah.
There are studies on what's called error-based learning that show that embracing mistakes can actually accelerate progress.
Wow.
So there's a whole field of neurolinguistics dedicated to this, and some fascinating techniques that leverage this concept of productive failure.
Okay, hold on. I'm scribbling notes like crazy neurolinguistics, error-based learning. This is already sounding way more in-depth than my usual language learning routine.
That's the goal. We're going deep today. We're going to go beyond just the surface level advice and really equip you with a deeper understanding of how to unlock your spoken English potential.
I am here for it. Okay, so we talked about the fear factor, but there's another mental trap that I think a lot of learners fall into. It's the translation trap.
Oh yeah, the translation trap. It's a real thing.
Big time. It's like my brain insists on running every sentence through this mental translator before I can speak.
Right.
It's exhausting. And it just makes my speech sound so unnatural.
It's incredibly common, but it's also incredibly inefficient.
Okay.
It's like trying to run a race while dragging a heavyweight behind you.
Yeah.
So let's unpack the science behind this for a second. When you translate, your brain is working overtime, juggling two languages simultaneously.
Oh, wow.
So that's slowing down your processing speed and ultimately making your speech sound hesitant and stilted.
Right. So how do we break free from this mental tug of war? Is it even possible to just start thinking in English?
It's not just possible. It's essential for achieving true fluency.
Okay.
Think about it like learning to ride a bike.
Yeah.
At first you're wobbling, you're overthinking every movement, but eventually it becomes second nature.
Right.
The same thing can happen with English. There are specific techniques to train your brain to think directly in English, bypassing that clunky translation step.
Okay. This is where it gets really interesting for me. I've always struggled with that mental translation hurdle.
Yeah.
Can you share some of those brain training techniques?
Yeah.
Like, how do we actually rewire our thinking?
So there are a number of powerful methods, but one that I find particularly effective is called self-talk immersion.
Self-talk immersion. So like talking to myself, but with a strategy.
Exactly. It's not just about randomly, chattering away in English.
Yeah.
It's about consciously creating a mental landscape where you are forcing yourself to think in English. So for example, describe your surroundings, your actions, even your thoughts and feelings, all in English, as if you were narrating your own life.
That actually sounds kind of fun. I'm already thinking about narrating my morning coffee routine in English. But what about those times when you're not just by yourself, like when you're actually trying to have a conversation with someone in English.
Right. Well, that's where another common pitfall comes in, and it's what I call the textbook trap.
Okay.
A lot of learners focus so heavily on formal written English.
Right.
And that can leave them feeling completely lost in real-life conversations.
I've so been there.
Yeah.
It's like studying sheet music for years, but then freezing up when you actually have to improvise a solo.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Spoken English. It's full of idioms, slang contractions. You know, it has this natural rhythm that you just won't find in textbooks.
Right.
So to bridge this gap, it's crucial to immerse yourself in authentic conversations as much as possible.
So how do we do that? Do we need to like book a one-way ticket to an English-speaking country?
Not necessarily. While living abroad can certainly accelerate your progress, there are tons of accessible resources right at your fingertips, even if you're not living in an English-speaking environment.
Okay, I'm relieved to hear that. So what are some of those accessible resources that can help us bridge that gap between textbook English and real-life conversations?
The key is to expose yourself to a wide variety of authentic spoken English, and podcasts are a fantastic resource for this.
Okay.
They offer such a diverse range of topics and speaking styles.
Right. Podcasts, I love listening to podcasts, but I sometimes worry that I'm just passively listening, not actively learning. Do you have any tips for making the most of podcast listening for language learning?
Absolutely. It's all about transforming that passive listening into active engagement. So one really powerful technique is called active listening with intent.
Okay.
So instead of just letting the audio wash over, you choose a short segment of a podcast and listen to it multiple times each time with a different focus.
Okay, so it's about breaking down the listening process into specific goals.
Exactly.
What are some examples of those different listening focuses?
Well, you could start by just listening for the overall meaning.
Yeah.
What's the main idea? What are the key points?
Got it.
Then listen again, but this time focus on specific vocabulary words or phrases that you want to learn.
Okay.
Look them up, write them down, even create your own examples with them. And then next, you could pay attention to the speaker's pronunciation, their intonation, their rhythm, and try to mimic them. You could even record yourself and compare.
Yeah. So each listen is like a mini lesson in itself. I love that. What about other resources besides podcasts? What about movies and TV shows?
Yeah, movies and TV shows are fantastic.
Yeah.
They really immerse you in those natural conversations.
Yeah.
You can pick up on cultural nuances.
Yeah.
But just like with podcasts, it's essential to watch actively, not passively.
Okay, so how do we watch movies or TV shows with that active learning mindset?
So I think subtitles can be a really valuable tool,
Okay.
but it's important to use them strategically.
Okay.
So you could start by watching with subtitles in your native language,
There.
just to get the overall gist of the story.
Right.
But then switch to English subtitles and really pay attention to how the spoken language is translated into written form.
So it's like having a real-time translation guide right there on the screen.
Exactly. And then once you feel comfortable, challenge yourself to watch without any subtitles at all and see how much you can actually comprehend.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's like this gradual process of weaning yourself off the subtitles. What about when you come across words or phrases that you don't understand? Do you recommend pausing and looking them up?
It depends. It really depends on your learning style and your goals. If you're aiming for complete comprehension, pausing and looking up unfamiliar words can be helpful.
Okay.
But sometimes it's okay to just let the flow of the story carry you along and focus on that overall meaning. You'll be surprised at how much you can infer from context.
Right, and sometimes getting bogged down in every single word can disrupt the enjoyment of the experience.
Exactly. And speaking of enjoyment, another fantastic resource for language learning is music.
Music. I love listening to music in English, but I often struggle to understand all of the lyrics. Is there a way to actually learn from music?
Absolutely. Music can be an incredibly powerful tool for language acquisition, especially for learning vocabulary, pronunciation, and rhythm.
Okay.
So choose songs that you love, look at the lyrics, and just sing along.
Okay.
You'd be amazed at how quickly those words and phrases stick in your mind.
It sounds like a fun way to learn. Okay, so we've got podcasts, movies, TV shows, music. What other resources can help us bridge that gap between understanding and speaking English fluently?
One resource that's often overlooked is audiobooks.
Audiobooks. I've never really thought of those as a language learning tool.
Yeah, they can be incredibly effective, especially for improving your listening comprehension and your pronunciation.
Okay.
So choose a book that you enjoy, listen to the audiobook while you're reading along in the physical book, and just pay close attention to the narrator's pronunciation and intonation.
So it's like a double dose of language immersion.
Exactly.
Reading and listening simultaneously. What about those times when we're not actively listening or watching something? Can we still be practicing our English even when we're busy with other things?
Absolutely. The key is to find those creative ways to integrate English into your daily routine, even if you only have a few minutes to spare.
Okay, I love the idea of sneaking in those micro practice sessions. Do you have any specific tips?
Yeah, well, think about your daily routine and identify those pockets of dead time, like commuting, waiting in line, doing chores.
Right.
These are prime opportunities for language learning.
So instead of scrolling through social media while I'm waiting for the bus, I could be listening to a podcast episode or reviewing some vocabulary flashcards.
Exactly. And the beauty of language learning apps is that they make it so easy to squeeze in practice wherever you are. You can even set daily reminders or create a personalized study schedule to help you stay on track.
I love how technology has made language learning so accessible and convenient. It's like having a virtual language coach right in your pocket. But what about that social aspect of language learning? Is it important to connect with other learners and native speakers in a more structured setting?
I think it's really valuable.
Yeah.
Joining an English-speaking community, both online and offline, can provide immense benefits.
Okay, I'm ready to get social. Tell me more about these communities and how to find them.
Yeah, well, look for local language meetups or conversation clubs or, even English-speaking theaters or events in your area.
Right.
Online, you can join Facebook groups or forums or virtual communities that are dedicated to English learning or even to specific interests,
So it's about finding your tribe, people who share your passion for learning English.
Exactly. And the beauty of these communities is that they provide this supportive and encouraging environment where you can practice speaking without fear of judgment. You can ask questions, you can share tips, and celebrate each other's successes.
It sounds like a fantastic way to stay motivated and to make the learning process more enjoyable.
It really is. And another benefit of joining a community is that it exposes you to different accents, speaking styles, and perspectives.
Right.
Which helps you develop a more well-rounded understanding of the language.
That's a great point. It's not just about learning textbook English, it's about understanding how the language is actually used in those real-life conversations.
Exactly. And speaking of real-life conversations, one of the most valuable things you can do to improve your speaking skills is to simply put yourself out there and start talking to native speakers.
Okay, that sounds terrifying to some. I know, but I know it's so important. Do you have any tips for overcoming that initial fear and approaching native speakers with confidence?
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, remember that most native speakers are incredibly welcoming and encouraging to language learners.
That's reassuring to hear. I think sometimes we just build up these fears in our minds, imagining the worst case scenarios.
Yeah, it's true.
But really, the reality is probably a lot more positive.
Oh, yeah. Most native speakers I've met understand the challenges of learning a new language, and they're more than happy to help. So start by finding small opportunities to interact with native speakers in your daily life, maybe at a coffee shop or at a store or even online.
Okay.
And remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about making an effort to communicate. Don't be afraid to ask for clarification if you don't understand something, and use gestures or visual aids to help get your point across.
Those are great tips. I feel like I'm starting to reframe my perspective on speaking to native speakers. It's not a test. It's an opportunity to connect and to learn.
Exactly. And the more you do it, the more confident and comfortable you'll become.
This has been such an empowering conversation. I feel like I have a whole new toolkit of strategies to improve my spoken English. But before we move on to our next segment, I just want to quickly recap some of the key takeaways from this part of our deep dive.
Great idea.
First and foremost, we debunked the myth that you need to live in an English-speaking country to achieve fluency.
Right.
We explored a plethora of accessible resources, from podcasts and movies to music and audiobooks, that can provide those immersive language learning experiences right at your fingertips.
Absolutely. And we emphasize the importance of active engagement, transforming that passive listening and watching into dynamic learning opportunities through targeted repetition-focused attention and even strategic use of subtitles.
Yes. And we encourage listeners to think outside the textbook, to embrace authentic spoken English and to seek out opportunities to interact with native speakers in those real-life conversations.
Right. And let's not forget the power of community. Joining English-speaking groups, both online and offline, can provide invaluable support, motivation, and exposure to all those different accents and perspectives.
This has been such a comprehensive and inspiring exploration of spoken English fluency. I feel like we've really equipped our listeners with a solid foundation for success.
I'm so glad to hear that. Remember, the journey to fluency is ongoing, and the more you embrace the process, the more rewarding it will be.
Okay, are you ready for our next segment? But first, a quick word from our sponsors.
And we're back. It's really remarkable how much we've already uncovered. about this whole intricate dance between understanding and speaking English fluently. It's not just about, accumulating knowledge, it's about activating it.
Right.
And we've explored some really creative ways to do that, even if you're not living in an English-speaking country.
Exactly. We've busted some myths, shared some unconventional techniques, and I'm already feeling more motivated to kind of step outside my comfort zone.
I love that.
But before we move on, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, the concept of rewiring our brains for fluency. It sounds almost like a superpower.
Right.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? What's actually happening in our brains when we're learning a new language?
This is where it gets really fascinating. Imagine your brain as this vast network of interconnected pathways.
Okay.
And each time you encounter new information, new connections are formed.
Okay.
And the more you use those connections, the stronger they become, like a well-trodden path.
So it's like building mental muscle memory, but for language.
Exactly. When you consistently practice speaking English, your brain is strengthening those neural pathways that are responsible for language production.
Okay.
So it's becoming more efficient at retrieving vocabulary, constructing sentences, coordinating all those complex movements of your mouth and your vocal cords.
So the more we speak, the smoother those pathways become, like a superhighway for English fluency. I'm starting to understand why simply understanding the language isn't enough. It's like having a map but never actually taking the journey.
Precisely. It's the act of speaking that truly solidifies those neural connections and transforms that passive knowledge into active fluency.
Okay.
And speaking of active fluency, let's dive a little deeper into some specific techniques for training those mental muscles. We talked briefly about self-talk immersion.
Right.
But there's a whole world of solo speaking practices that can really boost your confidence and your fluency.
Okay, I'm all ears. Especially because, let's be honest, finding a consistent conversation partner can be tricky. What are some of those solo speaking power moves that we can do?
One technique that I think is often overlooked is shadowing.
Okay, wait, isn't shadowing just for like mimicking native speakers in podcasts or movies?
Right.
Can you actually do it solo?
Absolutely. The key is to choose a text, whether it's a news article, a short story, even a script like this one, and read it aloud while recording yourself. And then listen back to the recording. Pay close attention to your pronunciation, your intonation, your rhythm.
So it's like becoming your own pronunciation coach and critic.
Exactly. And once you've identified areas where you want to improve, choose a short segment of the text and practice shadowing it multiple times. Aim to match the native speaker's pronunciation and flow as closely as possible.
I can see how that would be incredibly helpful for fine-tuning those tricky sounds and rhythms. What other solo speaking techniques do you recommend?
Another really powerful method is called descriptive narration.
Descriptive narration sounds intriguing. What's the concept behind that?
Imagine you're a sports commentator.
Okay.
But instead of describing a game, you're describing your everyday activities.
Okay.
So as you go about your day, narrate everything you do, even the most mundane tasks, in vivid detail, using rich vocabulary and complex sentence structures.
So instead of just thinking, I'm making breakfast, I would say out loud, I'm carefully whisking the eggs, adding a pinch of salt and a sprinkle of pepper, and watching as the golden omelet fluffs up in the pan.
Exactly.
Right.
It may feel a little silly at first,
Right.
but this technique forces you to think on your feet, to translate those everyday actions into fluent English, and to practice using descriptive language in a spontaneous way.
I love that. It's like turning everyday life into a language learning adventure. And I can imagine it would be especially helpful for those of us who tend to overthink or translate in our heads before speaking.
Absolutely.
But what about when we do have the opportunity to practice with a partner? How can we make the most of those conversations and avoid falling into the trap of just sticking to basic topics or making the same mistakes over and over again?
That's a great question. Conversation practice is invaluable, but it's important to approach it with intention and purpose. So one strategy that can be incredibly effective is called conversation mining.
Conversation mining sounds like we're digging for linguistic gold.
Exactly. Think of it as turning your conversations into valuable learning material.
Okay.
So after each conversation, take a few minutes to reflect on what went well, what challenges you faced, what new vocabulary or grammar structures you encountered.
So it's like turning those conversations into personalized language lessons.
Yeah.
What do we do with those linguistic nuggets that we've mined?
This is where a language journal can become your best friend. Write down those new words and phrases, create your own examples, and practice using them in different contexts. You can even record yourself speaking those sentences to really reinforce your learning.
I love the idea of turning those everyday conversations into this treasure trove of language learning material. It makes the learning process so much more engaging and relevant to our lives.
Exactly. And speaking of engagement, let's talk about a powerful technique that combines both solo and partnered practice, and that is role-playing with a twist.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Role-playing always sounds fun, but what's the twist?
The twist is to choose scenarios that challenge you to think creatively and to use a wide range of vocabulary and grammar structures.
Okay. So instead of sticking to basic situations like ordering food or asking for directions, imagine yourself in more complex scenarios like negotiating a business deal, giving a presentation, or even conducting a scientific experiment.
Wow, those are some high-stakes scenarios.
Yeah.
I can see how that would push us to use more sophisticated language and to really think outside the box.
Exactly. And you can do this solo by imagining the scenario and speaking your part aloud, or with a partner taking turns playing different roles.
I love that. It's like turning language learning into a game,
Right?
which makes it so much more fun and engaging.
Yeah.
And speaking of fun, we talked earlier about using music as a learning tool.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on how music can actually help us improve our spoken English?
Music is such a magical tool for language learning. It really taps into our emotions, our creativity, and our innate sense of rhythm.
Yeah.
So when you listen to music in English, you're not just passively absorbing the language, you're actively engaging with it. Connecting with the lyrics, the melody, the emotional nuances. I can definitely relate to that. Music has a way of kind of bypassing those mental barriers and allowing us to connect with language on a deeper level. But how do we translate that musical enjoyment into tangible language skill?
Well, there are a number of ways to really harness the power of music for spoken English improvement. First and foremost, choose songs that you love. Songs that resonate with you emotionally and that you'll enjoy listening to repeatedly.
Okay, that's easy enough. I've got a whole playlist of English songs that I love.
Perfect. So look at the lyrics and sing along. Don't worry about sounding perfect. Just focus on pronouncing the words clearly and matching the singer's rhythm and intonation.
So it's like karaoke, but with a language learning twist.
Exactly. And as you're singing along, pay attention to any unfamiliar words or phrases.
Okay.
Look them up, understand their meanings, and try to incorporate them into your own vocabulary.
Okay, that's making more sense now. It's not just about passively listening to the music, it's about actively engaging with the lyrics and kind of extracting those linguistic gems. What other musical techniques can we use?
Another really powerful method is what I call lyric analysis.
Okay.
So choose a song that you enjoy and really delve into the lyrics. Analyze the songwriter's use of language, the imagery, the metaphors, the rhyme scheme.
Okay.
Try to understand the deeper meaning behind the words, the emotions they evoke, the story they tell.
Wow. That sounds like a deep dive into the heart of language. It's like turning a song into a poetry analysis lesson. I can see how that would expand our vocabulary and our understanding of how language can be used to express these complex ideas and emotions.
Exactly. And the beauty of this technique is that it goes beyond just memorizing words and grammar rules.
Right.
It's about developing a deeper appreciation for the nuances and the beauty of the English language.
I love that. It's about seeing language not just as a tool for communication, but as an art form. And speaking of art forms, we haven't talked much about the visual side of language learning. Is there a way to kind of tap into our visual senses to enhance our spoken English fluency?
Absolutely. Visuals can be incredibly powerful tools for language acquisition, especially for those who are more visually oriented learners.
Okay, I'm a very visual person, so I'm eager to hear more about this. What are some visual techniques that we can use?
One technique that I find particularly effective is called image association.
Okay.
So choose a vocabulary word or phrase you want to learn and create a vivid mental image that you associate with that word.
So instead of just trying to memorize the definition, I would create a picture in my mind that represents the word.
Exactly.
So for example, if I wanted to learn the word serene, I might imagine a calm lake reflecting the mountains in the sky.
Exactly. And the more vivid and detailed your image, the more likely you are to remember that word. And to reinforce that connection, you can even draw or sketch your image, adding another layer of visual engagement.
I love that. It's like turning vocabulary learning into an art project. What other visual techniques do you recommend?
Another really powerful method is mind mapping. Mind mapping is this visual brainstorming technique that helps you organize information and make connections between ideas.
Okay, I've heard of mind maps, but I usually use them for brainstorming projects, not for language learning. How do they work for spoken English?
Well, choose a central theme or topic, such as travel, food, or technology, and write it in the center of a piece of paper.
Okay.
Then branch out from that central theme, adding related vocabulary, words, phrases, and ideas.
So if I chose travel as my central theme, I might branch out to destinations, transportation, accommodations, and activities.
Exactly. And under each branch, you can add those specific vocabulary words like airplane, hotel, museum, sightseeing.
Okay.
The key is to use colors, images, and symbols to make your mind map visually appealing and memorable.
I love that. It's like creating a visual roadmap for our language learning journey. And I can see how it would help us to organize our thoughts, make connections between words, and see that bigger picture of how language is used to describe different themes and topics.
Precisely. Mind mapping is a fantastic tool for expanding your vocabulary, improving your understanding of word relationships, and generating ideas for conversations and writing.
This has been such an eye-opening exploration of that visual side of language learning. I'm already feeling inspired to incorporate these techniques into my own practice. But before we move on, I want to circle back to something we talked about earlier, the fear of making mistakes.
Right.
I know you mentioned that embracing mistakes can actually accelerate progress.
Yes.
But how do we shift from seeing mistakes as failures to seeing them as valuable learning opportunities?
That's a crucial shift in mindset. And it's not just about positive thinking, it's about understanding the science behind how our brains actually learn from errors.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about the science of learning from mistakes.
So when we make a mistake, our brains actually fire up this whole network of neural activity, signaling that something needs to be adjusted or corrected.
Oh, wow.
And this process of error detection and correction, it's essential for learning and growth.
So mistakes are like wake-up calls for our brains.
Exactly.
Telling us to pay attention and to learn something new.
Precisely. And the more we embrace those wake-up calls, the more efficiently our brains actually learn and adapt.
Yeah.
But it's not just about making mistakes willy-nilly.
Okay.
It's about analyzing those mistakes, understanding why they happened, and using that knowledge to improve.
So it's about turning those mistakes into valuable feedback that guides our learning process.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And one of the best ways to do that is to get comfortable with receiving feedback both from ourselves and from others.
Okay, that makes sense. But receiving feedback can be a little nerve-wracking, especially when it comes to something as personal as our language skills. Do you have any tips for making that feedback process less intimidating and more productive?
Absolutely. First and foremost, choose your feedback sources wisely.
Okay.
Seek out people who are supportive, encouraging, and who have a good understanding of language learning.
So not just any random person on the street, but people who can provide constructive and helpful criticism?
Exactly. And when you are receiving feedback, listen actively and ask clarifying questions. Don't be afraid to explain your thought process or to ask for specific suggestions for improvement.
So it's about turning feedback into a dialogue, a collaborative learning experience.
Exactly. And remember, feedback is a gift. It's an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to become a more confident and fluent English speaker.
This has been such an empowering conversation about the power of mistakes and the importance of feedback. I'm starting to see mistakes not as setbacks, but as stepping stones on the path to fluency.
That's the spirit. Remember, every mistake is an opportunity to learn, to adapt, and to grow.
Okay, are you ready for our final segment? But first, a quick word from our sponsors.
And we're back for our final segment. Wow, it's amazing how much ground we've covered in this deep dive. From like brain science to solo speaking hacks to embracing those glorious mistakes. It's been a lot.
It really has been quite a journey. And you know, it strikes me that there's this one more crucial piece to this whole fluency puzzle, and that's the emotional side of language learning. Ooh, I like where this is going. We've talked a lot about techniques and strategies, but what about the role of like motivation, confidence, even playfulness?
Exactly. You can have all the knowledge and all the tools in the world, but if you're not emotionally invested, if you're not enjoying the process, it's going to be an uphill battle.
Right.
You know, think about it. When we're genuinely interested in something, when we're having fun, our brains are just more receptive. We're more likely to stick with it.
For sure. It's like the difference between forcing yourself to eat broccoli and like savoring a delicious dessert.
That's a perfect analogy. So how do we inject that sense of enjoyment, that intrinsic motivation into our language learning journey? Well, one powerful approach is to tap into our passions. What are you genuinely interested in? What are those topics that make your eyes light up?
Ooh, I'm a total history nerd.
Okay.
I could spend hours reading about ancient civilizations or watching documentaries about historical events.
There you go.
Yeah.
So instead of sticking to those generic textbooks or conversations, immerse yourself in English language resources that are related to history. Read books, watch documentaries, listen to podcasts, even join online forums or discussion groups that are dedicated to history.
Okay, so it's about aligning our language learning with our existing interests.
Exactly.
Which makes so much sense. It's like sneaking in a workout while doing something you already love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you're learning through a subject that you're passionate about, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like exploration. It feels like discovery.
Right.
And that sense of excitement, it just fuels your motivation and makes that whole learning process so much more enjoyable.
I'm already feeling more inspired just thinking about it. But what about those times when we hit a plateau, when we feel stuck or discouraged? How do we maintain that emotional momentum?
Well, this is where the power of setting realistic goals and celebrating small victories comes in. So instead of focusing on this kind of elusive end goal of fluency, break down your learning journey into smaller, more manageable milestones.
Okay, so instead of saying, I want to be fluent in English, I might set a goal to have a 5-minute conversation with a native speaker about my favorite hobby.
Exactly. And each time you achieve one of those milestones, no matter how small, take the time to acknowledge it and celebrate your progress.
Okay.
This reinforces those positive feelings and helps you stay motivated, even when the going gets tough.
That's a great reminder. It's so easy to get caught up in what we haven't achieved yet and forget to appreciate how far we've come.
It's so true. We often focus on our shortcomings, but it's crucial to acknowledge those wins, those moments of, aha, I did it.
I'm definitely going to start keeping a victory journal to track those moments of success. But what about confidence? We've talked about overcoming that fear of making mistakes, but how do we build genuine confidence in our ability to speak English fluently?
Confidence is a muscle that needs to be exercised regularly. And one of the best ways to strengthen that muscle is through positive self-talk.
Okay, I've heard about positive self-talk, but I sometimes struggle with it feeling a little cheesy or insincere. How do we make it genuine and effective?
It's all about reframing your inner dialogue. So instead of focusing on your perceived weaknesses, focus on your strengths, your progress, and your potential.
So instead of saying, I'm so bad at speaking English, I'll never be fluent, I might say, I'm learning and growing every day, and I'm proud of myself for putting in the effort.
Exactly. It may sound simple, but the words we use to talk to ourselves have a powerful impact on our beliefs and our actions. And the more you practice that positive self-talk, the more those positive beliefs will become ingrained in your subconscious mind, boosting your confidence and empowering you to take risks and embrace challenges.
I love that. It's like rewiring our brains for positivity and self-belief.
Exactly. And remember, confidence breeds confidence. The more you practice speaking English, even if it's just to yourself or with supportive partners, the more confident you'll become.
Okay, I'm starting to see a pattern here. It's all about shifting our mindset, our approach, and our emotional state.
Exactly. Language learning is not just this cognitive process, it's an emotional journey. And when you embrace that journey with enthusiasm, curiosity, and a willingness to experiment and have fun, you unlock this whole new level of learning and growth.
This has been such an incredible deep dive. I feel like we've not only equipped our listeners with practical techniques and strategies, but we've also empowered them to approach language learning with this whole new mindset.
I'm so glad to hear that. Remember, the journey to fluency is ongoing, and the more you embrace the process, the more rewarding it will be.
Absolutely. And before we sign off, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought-provoking question. If you could have a conversation with anyone in the world in fluent English, who would it be and what would you talk about? Let us know in the comments below. And until next time, happy learning.